So today we're going to talk about the tanking Canadian dollar, how that reflects on the economy going forward, how it reflects to real estate. We're going to talk about our relationship with the States, the optimism down there, how people aren't necessarily too optimistic about Canada, why I personally am staying here to invest, why I think there's light at the end of the tunnel, and why there could be opportunity coming in the next decade. So today we're going to talk about the Canadian dollar. As we film this, it's at about 71 cents to the American dollar. A lot of that is based on just excitement for the American economy, right? You have a new government coming in that's offering the hope of all these tax cuts. And if you're a business looking to start in one country or the other, you'd have to look at optimistically, where do you want to go? If you look at the States and they're talking about lowering income tax, cutting red tape, doing all of this. And then you have our government who's, we already are one of the few countries in the world that has a carbon tax. And now they're looking at increasing that in May, not looking to, they're going to. And those are all things that are anti-business, right? It makes a huge impact on a business if you start paying a lot more to manufacture goods. When the dollar goes down, it also makes it less attractive. If you're bringing in a lot of your goods from the States or your, machineries from the factories, that's a huge difference paying 70 cents on the dollar. If you look at acquiring talent to the country, right? Our average home price is about $100,000 more than the States, and Canadians make a lot less. I think the number in the States is around $75,000 on average. In Canada, it's $68,000, but that's Canadian dollars. So that's only about $50,000 American dollars. So the average salary versus average price of a home is way out of whack compared to what it is in the States.
Stark divergences we see in Canada versus the US is number one, the economies are moving in two different ways.
For example, the unemployment rate in the US is about 4%. In Canada, it's been creeping up. Now it's 6.5%. GDP growth last quarter was close to 3% in the US. In Canada, it was around 1%. And the debt to income ratio in the United States, that's how much of your gross monthly income goes to paying debt, is around 100%. In Canada, it's 180%. Yes, that means more debt than income.
So a lot of those things keep compounding and make it less and less desirable to invest in Canada and more desirable to invest in the States. I think what keeps a lot of investors here, including myself, is there is a very strong hope that we get a change in government that becomes pro-business and actually gets the economy back going. We should be one of the richest countries on earth, and I think we can do that, right? We need a pro-business, pro-energy government to come in and get the economy going again. So in Canada, we're not that far away from another election cycle, and I think everybody's very optimistic we get that change, and that is keeping some businesses here. If that were to switch and it didn't look like we'd get a change in government, I think you'd see a lot more businesses leaving. There's so many benefits that the new American government's coming in with, right? No tax on overtime, interest deducted on vehicles made in the States, lower credit card interest rate. There's all these things that really would affect people's life. Plus, you're making a dollar that's actually worth a dollar. Home prices are less. If it does spur the economy, there's going to be lots of jobs. So Canada's going to have to do something to keep up to that. With the American election, there's so much optimism in the economy and the things that are going to happen. I think it is good for us in the sense that a lot of people in Canada will start to see like, hey, if you do tax cuts here, it does help the economy. And as we are going into an election cycle in the not too distant future, I think the government, the conservatives will probably run on a lot of the same stuff that Trump did as far as tax cuts and doing things to spur the economy, because that's really our only hope is we have to really get the Canadian economy back to where it should be, and that'll bring the dollar back up. There'll be optimism to invest here. People will want to move here. We can do it better in Canada. We don't have quite as much rhetoric as they do in the States. We do have an unreal amount of natural resources. For Alberta in particular, we've been kind of butting heads with the federal government for 10 years. And if we get a more pro-energy government, I think it can really spur a lot of growth, and it can be a really good time for Canada. And that's kind of what's keeping an investor like myself in Canada instead of looking down south right now. So I think the dollar being at 70 cents is really an indicator of it's just 10 years of bad policy, right? It's anti-business, putting in the carbon tax, doing all these things that make Canada really unattractive for foreign investment to come in. We've seen that it's bled tons of money to, quit coming to Canada, started investing in other places. And it's just been it took a long time. I heard an analogy the other day where Canada's like a trust fund baby, right? We can make a lot of bad mistakes and we always have the energy sector to bail us out. We have so many natural resources. But I think after 10 years, you've just seen it be beat down so much that it's hard to come out of it. And I think that's reflective in where our dollar is, where foreign investment is, and just overall sentiment. I don't think most Canadians are very bullish on Canada right now as far as an economy. I think a lot of people in the States would be bullish. They're excited about what the next little bit looks like. And that kind of reflects in people buying the Canadian dollar versus the American dollar. I think we cut interest rates a lot faster than the States. That didn't help. So there's a lot of bad policy that we have to fix. And again, I'm optimistic for the future. I like when there's uncertainty because the market doesn't go crazy. You probably have a chance to buy stuff at somewhat of a discount today versus if we were super bullish on the next 10 years. I think things would be a lot more expensive than they are, even though they're still expensive. So I think there's light at the end of the tunnel, and hopefully you can pick up some deals today when things are slightly cheaper and there's more pessimistic people in the market. Thanks for watching this week. We'll see you guys next week for more Scaling Up Apartment Investing with Shane.